going down to the breakdown of the Seahawks playing the Ravens, it is obviously in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium. And, Lamar Jackson's having a great year. Not that as many TDs as I would want throwing, but he's obviously got a good amount rushing as well. And, a really high completion percentage where it's like this is a team that both runs the ball and passes really well. But then you also do have, the Seahawks looking here where Kenneth Walker is having an incredible year, averaging almost 5 yards a carry, which is, pretty asinine. And, Geno Smith is still doing, kind of what he was doing last year. But this game and thinking about it and looking at the injuries, none really that are that relevant for the Seahawks. And then the only one that I really think about with the Ravens that would be kind of bad would be Marcus Williams potentially. You want this safety who's going to be able to be over the top to defend against Lockett and DK, who are both great deep threats. Rocky Sin being injured, kind of unfortunate there, even though I don't think that he is a starting corner on this team, to be honest with you. If I look at it right quick, they obviously have they have Stevens and then Marlon Humphrey, of course, and he's their kind of slot guy. But overall, I think that this team has become very, very well balanced, and Roquan Smith is also playing a really, really good football. As to me, he's on par with Fred Warner, to be honest, as the best in the game potentially, and just a very solid mixture of veterans and pass rushers. Jadeveon Clowney, journeyman pass rusher who's still kind of getting it done. Manda Beek, who's a young pass rusher. Michael Pierce, your nose tackle. But overall, this team, very, very, very stout, and they have good depth as well. I just think that a lot of these guys that I see, even as backups, it's like we're starters at one point. So they've got very good depth, very good, especially on defense. I feel like on offense, yeah, it's really good that you have Zay Flowers, who is, kind of emerged as your guy. I think Odell Beckham is kind of rediscovering himself because obviously it's hard to miss an entire year and come back and be the exact same player. But, Mark Andrews, I think, is as good a tight end as any. And, this team is just very well oiled, and they have a pretty good own line as well with, their left tackle Ronnie Stanley being an easy top 5 in that, Linderbaum a top center. And I mean, even Morgan Moses, really not that bad, but he is doubtful for this game. Um, I think that looking at this, I am going to give the game to the Ravens because it is at their home. They have every reason to be confident going into this week. Obviously, Seattle, they won last week against Cleveland, which I thought was going to be a loss for them. I think that this is just going to be a very, very tough week for them. And I think that their offense hasn't really gotten going to the extent that I thought it would with three guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was, one of the top prospect wide receivers from this last draft, seemingly not doing too much. And then you have Metcalf and Lockett, so you have a very well oiled, wide receiver room, as well as obviously Kenneth Walker doing amazing work for them on the ground. But ultimately, I think that because the strength of the Seattle Seahawks defense is their secondary. Jamal Adams, Witherspoon, Rick Woolen. I think that this is kind of, it's a really good defense against the throw. Witherspoon has kind of exceeded expectations, I think, and benefited from a really good system. I think that the Seahawks have always been able to have, really good defenses, but I think it's going to come down to the fact that you're going up against a team that doesn't throw it a ton. Obviously, Zay Flowers is having a good year with 461 yards so far, but only one TD. And if under 10 TDs throwing says one thing about this team is that they don't throw it too much. And Lamar Jackson is also doing a good job protecting the ball. He's had some, one of the games that they lost was because he threw a game-ending interception, but overall just really returning to form, really proving that he's worth the money that the Ravens signed him to. So I am going to go with the Ravens in this game, and I'm going to go with them by 7 because I think that they are just, too lethal. And even, I mean, looking at their last few wins, Tennessee obviously kind of not that impressive to me, but then Detroit was a very impressive win. Like I don't think we've seen anything like this where it's a top five team in each conference and they get blown out like this. Maybe the last game that I think that I remember that reminds me of this in a way was when the Bills beat the Dolphins. But Detroit, they're saying that Detroit could be the number one team in the NFC, and I mean that's saying something. Obviously, the Ravens also kind of just eased up on Arizona. I don't think that the score is really accurate, to be honest with you. But yeah, coming off of a win last week, that was pretty easy. I think that the Ravens win this one and the Seahawks they run out of luck in this game because I think that I wouldn't say it was lucky that they did well against the Browns, but the Browns had an off game last week, where Myles Garrett didn't really get to Geno Smith, which is what I thought was going to happen. But yeah, Ravens over the Seahawks by 7.